Thanks so much for your patience. We're almost ready to get started. We're just waiting for some people to code in. Welcome, everyone. Hi. Thanks so much for joining the session. Just give us a minute to let people in from the waiting room and we'll get right started. Great. So I think I will get started now and then we'll have people coming in. So again, thank you so much for joining this webinar, for joining this virtual event for the ECOSOC Partnership Forum that will be taking place tomorrow, also at the UN in New York and also online this week. And this event is also part of the Learning Planet Festival program that is being taking place this whole week. So my name is Isabel Thoman. I'm a senior program officer at the International Association of Universities based in Paris at UNESCO in France. And I'll be moderating today's session. And I'm joined by a great number of experts and speakers from very different parts of the world and very different expertise as well. I'll be coming there in 1 second. Just very briefly to say that this is a joint event. So it's organized by UN Academic Impact, Global Student Forum, SDG Academy, and the IAU. And yeah, we're very much looking forward to the discussions today on the topic of innovative practices for the SDGs that will also be under review this year at the High Level Political Forum. So we have SDG 6, which is clean water and sanitation, SDG 7 on clean and affordable energy, SDG 9, industry, infrastructure and innovation, and SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, and of course SDG 17, partnerships as the glue that keeps this all together. So when we were working on the session, we have one thing that connects all the organizations and the experts here is that we have a background and that we work a lot in higher education and in academia. So what we were trying to do with the session and what you will hear from the experts and the case studies in a minute is to make a bit this link of SDG 4 quality education being really not just an SDG by itself and being put into this education corner, but actually working throughout the different SDGs under review and very closely connecting to all of the SDGs and very much looking at this practice component, working with youth and working with communities. So what we like to do in the session today is to show you concrete examples for partnership models where higher education institutions work with youth, work with cities, civil society stakeholders, and other parts of their local communities on various solutions regarding different SDGs that the High Level Political Forum in July will also be looking at. And we really want to try to find these practical levers, these practicals, connecting and entry points that will allow partnerships with higher education to work on these SDG solutions. What also we wanted to mention is that this alliance, let's say, of different partners comes out of the Global Higher Education Symposium that we held in New York at the High Level Political Forum in July 2025. So you might be interested to also looking into this meeting, and we will have follow-up discussions as well on these discussions that determine a little bit where we could go post 2030 in higher education and more broadly as well with our joint efforts for the Sustainable Development Goals. But now, without further ado, I think I would like to very much welcome also our speakers and thank them for having accepted to speaking at this event. We will start with a keynote from a youth leader, Nudara Yusuf, who's the co-chair of the Coalition for the UN We Need and a fellow at Princeton University in the US. I think we will start with your keynote, Nudara, and then I will move to the other speakers and a little bit of a discussion. And I also understand, Nudara, that you have to leave right after your presentation. So we will try whenever you're done, if there's any immediate questions, please also use the chat to the participants. We can address them right after your keynote, and then we can continue with the case studies and our colleagues that have joined us. So thanks so much. And yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Isabel, and to all of the partners organizing this event today. It was also really wonderful to see the intergenerational collaboration that went into producing this event across sectors as well. I think a model of what we're hoping to see in the future. I feel like these days, So much of what we talk about is gloom and doom and the polycrisis. And I promise you we will get to that in my keynote. But let me start from a place of possibility. Because despite everything, something remarkable is happening. Education systems, arguably seen as slow to change and often removed from their local communities, are starting to shift and fast. And higher education in particular is showing signs of transformation that could redefine its role in society. In a world where the ground is shifting beneath our feet, politically, economically, technologically, higher education institutions are being asked to do far more than educate. Academia is being asked to do far more than educate. They're being asked to respond to systemic disruption, to mediate generational divides, and to operate as trusted public institutions in a time of eroding trust. So the question is this: how do we meet the moment? Do we generally react, adapt, and maintain our bottom lines and just say, we've just got to get through this, it'll get better? Or do we recognize that the role of academia in society is shifting and becoming institutions that model what partnerships look like in practice is critical, collaborative across borders, rooted in local realities, and resilient across crisis? Because let's not kid ourselves, the global environment that academia is operating in and that their students are graduating into and their research is being funded by is shifting in a way that we haven't seen before. And it's unlikely to reach a new equilibrium for some time. Here, the Sustainable Development Goals provide us with that North Star. It's what we agreed we need to achieve for the future of humanity. And on that, I'm sure we will hear a lot more in the case studies that will follow in this discussion. So I won't dig into that any further. But I will outline some of the main shifts that are taking place, especially in regards to the geopolitics, economics, and technology that is facing academia today. First, we see shifting labor markets that are pushing institutions to move beyond traditional degrees towards more modular and flexible credentials. Traditional degrees are being valued in different ways by society and different sectors. Second, the rise of AI and large-scale digital platforms is reshaping pedagogy, research, and academic integrity, while also having to toe the line with the fact that that's what the employment sector is looking for, is skills in these areas. There is growing scrutiny over the monetization, accessibility, and accountability of universities, particularly in global majority countries where student populations are growing fastest and demand, frankly, exceeds supply. And third, and fourth, globally, democratic backsliding, conflict, and the climate crisis are testing universities' roles as civic institutions where polity meets policy. But academia can turn these catalytic events into positive multipliers if they are quick to acknowledge the change and proactively plan ahead. And I know this will be a core element of discussion in the event today. As a student in India, London, and the US, I've seen that it's critical for institutions to be rooted in the realities of global communities, their local environments, but also the global community that they're feeding their students into. For academia to interact with civil society and vice versa, to allow for what is most critical at this time, which is evidence-backed advocacy towards the future. And here, young people play a critical role because no one knows a crisis like we do. Many of us were born into financial crises in a post 9/11 world. We graduated into a COVID-based market and economy. As soon as we thought our jobs were secure, suddenly there's a shift in globalization. There's a shift in the skills that are being demanded in the labor market. Climate fear was a constant part of our existence. And so, the golden era or the post-World War optimism or the multilateral golden age were all things that we just nostalgically looked at in a past that we were never part of. And that reality that young people live in has charged them to act in a certain way, grounded in their local realities, grounded in their global realities, that play a key role in the decisions that we make towards the future. Look, I'm a daughter of a refugee and immigrants. My parents' generation were told if they worked hard, got good grades to get scholarships to the best universities in foreign countries and worked hard in those institutions, they would get good jobs, make stable incomes, and their children would be better off than them. That intergenerational social contract does not exist anymore. So for belief in the system to continue, the system needs to step up. That requires concrete versions, concrete examples of working in local communities to go beyond our ivory towers and think about the impact that our research is having on the world, to work across borders, to work across generations, to ensure that in these ECOSOC Partnership Forum, the partnerships go beyond just this conversation and that we're taking seriously what needs to happen in the future as a networked and inclusive model for change. But the good news is we know that this can happen. Academia has been incubators for breakthroughs, from vaccine research to decolonizing movements to green technology and economic reform. And we need students to help us answer the questions of what next. Research on what is the future of the UN, post-Pact for the Future, post-UN 80. We're in 2025. We just crossed 2025 at the 80th anniversary of the UN. But what does the 100th anniversary of this institution look like, or the future of multilateralism look like? What is the future of sustainable development? We have it defined in the Brundtland Commission reports of the 1990s, but do we need to redefine what this means for the 21st century? This requires research. It requires students that are engaged, academic institutions that are engaged in not just academia, but academia grounded in the reality of the moment. You all know this very well. You are students, you are teachers, you are professionals in this space. But sometimes it's important to remind ourselves of how big a role we can play. See, academia serves as a key toward a future where knowledge is mobilized with integrity, where governance is shared across generations, and where innovation serves not the few, but the future. And I hope that will be a key point of discussion for us today. Thank you so much, Isabel.
Thank you so much, Nodara, and thank you so much for trying to unpack the complexities of the world that we're navigating in at least a little bit. And I think this is a quite good way to start off our discussion today, to have these really strong words of youth and trying to look a bit at what is the generational contract that we're dealing with, what is the definition of sustainable development, what type of future are we looking at beyond 2030. And well, as I said before, I know that you have to leave, so I'm just giving the opportunity to our audience to ask maybe 2 or 3 questions to you. And I think that we can do that either if they're in written form in the chat, if you've seen something, or by also like raising their hand if it's a very quick intervention here. So really very much if there's some questions, or maybe also from the other speakers to you, Nodara, maybe that's something you would like to add, you see. Let's just see. We will do, and no worries, we'll do more questions and discussion towards the end of the session. But we at least wanted to give the possibility for at least a quick response. Just checking, and hope my colleague Jacob, if you see anything, any questions to Nodara.
Yes, I can see one person has raised their hand. I can see that it's Portia. I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. I want to ask quickly, and good morning to all, and thank you for your presentation. How does this look on the ground? And I very much appreciate the local focus. But for example, myself, I am homeless right now, and I have been talking with other people who are unhoused. And one of the things that they are saying this small group that I've talked to, in no way am I speaking for all homeless people, but they are saying that these policies still to date are not reaching the ground. And what is happening is saying, think positive, it's not so bad, but people cannot have food to eat and a place to stay. Thank you.
I think there was another question by Brendan O'Malley as well. I'm happy to take both and kind of answer them in one go. But thank you,
Yes.
Portia, for that.
Brendan, please, if you want to come in with your question.
I believe you're on mute.
Allowing. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Right. Sorry, just a question really right at the start. You made a strong point that things are changing, that universities are from being remote and elite, the evidence is that the things are changing and they're getting more involved in communities. I just wondered, what is the evidence for that?
Yep, no, of course. And I think both of these questions actually will be given kind of more concrete examples in the case study. So I don't want to take up too much time right now speaking to what's going to be the second half of this event. And Isabel can correct me if I'm wrong there. But just to say, I think, Portia, you're right in that things often take a long time to trickle through the system. And I think the case that I would make is that universities help catalyze that shift and that movement of policy that needs to take place, because they are often connected in what I hate calling the decision-making rooms, which tend to be a very small group of people making decisions on behalf of a very large number of people. And one of the things that academia does is shift that table a little bit, increase its size, bring more people to that conversation, which allows for a bit more grounded in local realities. So, I'm sorry for your hardship, and I'm not saying that it's all great out there, not at all. But I do think that there is a key role here to play that we'll continue to discuss. On Brendan, your question of where is the evidence of some of this shift. So we've seen over the last decade that at least the Ivy League universities in the US and the Indian IIT universities that I can speak to in India that I know of have had required local community projects that they've taken on. This wasn't a requirement in many universities in the past. They've all taken on these policies kind of on a voluntary basis. So I go to the School of Public and International Affairs at Princeton University. We have a very elaborate local community program in New Jersey, where we engage on raising funds for the local community, working with the homeless shelter here at Princeton. One example of, I think, many. I think the key, though, the more kind of macro level driving factor is that academic institutions, I think, are increasingly being politicized. And I don't think this is just a US phenomena, right? I think this is a global phenomena. And are often being asked to take a stance in the courses that they are making available to their students, in the faculty that they are employing, the research that they are allowing the faculty to publish. All of these are becoming more and more political every single year. And I think that political stance comes with often an acceptance of social responsibility, which I think is also driving this movement towards giving back to the local community.
Thanks so much, Nodara, and also thanks so much for these excellent questions. Nodara, do you have a minute for a last and third question, which I think is a quite practical one, and I've seen it in the chat. It's what is your advice for young students who aspire to make real changes, especially when faced with nepotism and corruption of the system? So just maybe, because I know we have a lot of youth also listening, your advice and your sort of concluding words before you have to head out. Thank you so much already.
Sure. And I won't say I'm in a position to provide advice to all young people who are on this call, because everyone does change in a different way. But I can share some of my perspective, which is, I think we often hear as young people that we don't need to ask permission to do things. And it's easy to say that, but it's true that there are so many obstacles that any one young person faces, often the biggest one being that we're not paid to do what most people are paid to do, and we're competing with industries that are paid to do them. I would say start small, start with something that you care about. It could be as simple as you walk away from this event and you have your school endorse the sustainable development goals that are being discussed at the ECOSOC Partnership Forum. It could be as small as saying, you know, the Pact for the Future was negotiated in September 2024. I'm going to put together a group of young people in my local community that are all going to say we care about the Pact for the Future. We're going to send a letter to Jacob at the Global Students Forum and say, hey, here is more support for the Pact for the Future. It could be as small as saying, we're going to run a drive here and raise some money and try to do something in our local community with a project that matters. I think the key, though, is being connected to your peers. It's really hard to do this on your own. It's really difficult to take on a project that you're kind of trying to make a big change. But change comes when you're able to connect with other people, learn from what they're doing. A great way to do this is the Department of Global Communications has a youth newsletter that you can sign up to. The UN Youth Office has a newsletter that you can sign up to. There is a lot of social media coming from the UN, always producing and sharing opportunities for young people. And so if you're looking for an entry point, there's so many. But I hate this idea of a seat at the table that we often talk about. Let's just make more tables, you know, even if that looks like pulling together a stool and sitting around it, let's do that, because I think pockets of change can come from anywhere. And it's really helpful to also be connected to other people while you're doing that.
Thanks so much, Nodara. And I think that's, yeah, really a great way to say goodbye to you at this point. And thank you again for giving us all these really important, food for thought inputs here. And hope to see you again next time. And we'll continue the conversation here. And we'll move now to some of these very practical, activities on the ground that you mentioned, which are part of the things that we need to face the complexities of this world, which can be very overwhelming, as we know. So I have the pleasure now to move to our case studies. So we have 3 case studies lined up, and then we have also Jacob from the Global Student Forum coming in. So 4 presentations that we will have, and then we'll have a time for discussions and question. As we are a numerous group, I apologize in advance if we won't be able to respond to all of the questions and comments. But we will be sharing some of the thoughts also towards the end of the session. So the first case study that I have the pleasure of presenting to you is from De Montfort University. This is the UN Academic Impact Hub for SDG 11 for Sustainable Cities. And we have with us Mark Charlton, who's the Academic Impact Hub Chair and also lead and Associate Professor of Sustainable Development, and Zamzam Yusuf, who's an alumni of De Montfort University and the founder of Zamzam Unlimited Possibilities. And I have the pleasure to introduce both of you, and you will be sharing some of the examples of local partnerships for sustainable and inclusive cities. So thanks so much. The floor is yours, and I'll be pulling up your slides just in a second. Thank you, Mark and Zamzam, for being with us.
Thank you.
So welcome everybody, and it's fantastic seeing the chat. So many people from so many different places around the world. This is really exciting. If you could share the first slide out, Isabel, and we'll get straight to it because we want to stick to our allotted time today. Thank you. So welcome everyone. I'm Mark Charlton. I lead the SDG Hub Chair for SDG 11, which is Sustainable Cities and Communities. And we have been holding that position since January last year. So we're about a year into the project. And we wanted to do something really special to mark becoming an SDG 11 hub. So I thought long and hard about what that might look like, and then I thought about people that I've worked with, like Zamzam, and a football club called Leicester Nirvana, who I work with through Football for the Goals, and a homeless charity called One Roof, who do incredible things and are really making a difference at the moment in this winter spell in the United Kingdom by taking people off the street. And I realized I had a collection of 5 really good partners doing really fascinating things for sustainable development in Leicester, but in incredibly different ways. So I put together a national lottery bid. We have this huge charitable fund in the United Kingdom, and I bid for £1.35 million to work with these partners to specifically understand issues related to climate change from the ground up. So often when we understand climate change, we really think about the typical narratives about, well, we could eat less meat, or we could all drive electric vehicles. But lots of people in different communities don't get too much choice over the types of food they eat or types of car that they drive. In fact, possibly don't own a car at all and are very low carbon emitters. So I really wanted to understand this community, and working with these established relationships that I had, I built this bid, which I'm really proud to say the National Lottery Fund agreed that it was a good idea. So if I could have the next slide, please, Isabel, that would be really great. And yeah, I should mention that Zamzam was, while the slide's moving on, that Zamzam and I was working here when Zamzam was a student, and she worked really closely with me on a UN refugee advocacy project called the Together Campaign. And then after Zamzam graduated, it was incredibly impressive to see her go and build on this work and develop through the city. So yeah, just waiting for the second slide. It seems to be loading slowly, but I'll keep moving anyway, and hopefully it'll catch me up.
Sorry, because it's not the second slide yet, because it's showing for me, so maybe it's just very slow. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. So I had this really interesting working relationship with some people doing really incredible grassroots stuff in Leicester. And I really wanted to, through the research that I'd done, find new ways to take climate action in communities. And I thought this would be an opportunity to actually experiment with the communities by taking their knowledge and those groups designing the ideas. And then I would be able to look across the ideas that they're coming up with, and also as a lecturer in political sustainable development, able to understand the difference between what the policies were that were driving climate action in communities, but also what the needs were in reality. And as you can imagine, and I think Portia mentioned earlier to Nadira, these two things don't really fit together too well at the moment. So we're really hoping that we can change that and really understand what communities need when they come to taking climate action. So we work together really closely to convince the National Lottery that we would use their funding wisely. And this was a really exciting time for me, because I put most of the emphasis on the community groups to say what they really needed. And the feedback from from the National Lottery when they read the application were things around, we've never had a homeless organisation want to take climate action before, and this is really exciting for us. So suddenly we realised that we had something quite unique in our approach towards this project, and it's a project of written into the bid, or the demands of the bid are that we try to make this a project of national significance. So Leicester's in the middle of the United Kingdom, but we have the second biggest Somali community in the United Kingdom behind London, but there are also large Somali community in Birmingham and Manchester. We also work with Leicester Nirvana, which I mentioned before, as a football team. Every city has lots and lots of football teams. Every city has a number of homeless charities trying to support people and get them off the streets. And throughout our projects, we've been able to have embed this idea that we're going to be sharing everything that we're finding with communities of practice in each area. I haven't mentioned Saffron Acres really, which is a bit rude of me. So I definitely want to mention them. They are a completely different organisation to the other charities that I mentioned, in that they're a little bit further out of the city centre. They are in what was known as traditionally a less mixed white estate on the edge of the city of Leicester. They have this incredible piece of wasteland right by a train track, and the residents really want to use it to inform their climate learning. So we've got a really special project with them as well. So that's the cluster of partners, and they're very interesting. But the most important thing that I could want to share as an academic with any other academics who are on the call, and I know there's lots of UNAI representative organisations and universities in the chat, was that how we co-created it. So it was my idea that I thought there was something in this, that these types of community groups were completely being ignored by climate policy, but I gave the project to them to design, and then I knitted it all together. So I think the co-creation element was really the big takeaway. I'll hand over to Zamzam. Could have the next slide, please, Isabel?
Thank you, Mark. Hi everyone, my name is Zamzam Yusuf, and I'm the founder and managing director of Zamzam Unlimited Possibilities. Zamzam is, so who are we? We are a youth and community organization based in Leicester, a place in the UK, and our work centers around creating safe cultural responses, spaces where young people and families, particularly from those global majority and underrepresented communities, can build confidence, skills, and pathways to opportunities. Why was Zamzam funded? So why did I set up this organization? Is because I did years of frontline work in youth work and community. I consistently saw how structural inequalities across education, health, and environment limited young people and their life skills. And what's always guided my work is the belief that communities already have, they hold the knowledge and they hold the solution, and they just need someone to kind of come along and work with them. And what's often missing is that trust, investment, and opportunities. And I feel like being part of this project have provided that for us, in terms of, because we are really working from a grassroots level. My involvement in LEAF came from, obviously, as Mark said, I've worked quite closely with him in a couple of projects, and I'm also a DMU alumni. But more than anything, LEAF came from a strong alignment of values. Climate change isn't just an environmental issue, is also a social justice issue. And quite the young people that we're working with are often the most affected, yet the least heard. So this project offers us as a community organization a genuine opportunity to ensure climate action is shaped by lived experiences and delivered in accessible and empowering ways for our young people and communities. Through LEAF, where obviously, as Mark mentioned, we're working in partnership with Montfort University, and among other partnerships that Mark already mentioned, One Roof, Saffron Lakes, Leicester Nirvana, and Somali Development Services. These partnerships bring together academic expertise, grassroots insights, and trusted community relationships, which is obviously strengthens both delivery and impact across all these projects and community groups that we're working with. Although the project has been kind of going for a year almost, and putting the bid and everything else together, from the point of view Zamzam Unlimited, we've only recently started delivering sessions to our young people today, and we are intentionally encouraging young people to using food as a hook, because what we find is in the area that we are working from is food poverty is quite high, and the hook is, you know, something, food is the hook, and something similar and familiar, so to socially connect the young people, to introduce wider conversation around health, sustainability, and environment and energy, and so on and so forth. Sorry, I've lost my slide notes there. What have we learned so far? Well, we've learned that food is a powerful tool for engagement for young people. Also, young people like to do practical hands-on learnings, build their confidence, encourage deeper reflections. Young people engage more meaningful when climate action is linked to their daily life, culture, and personal choices. And strong partnerships significantly enhances that impact. So we are constantly learning from our peers, from our organizations, and from our partnership as well. This has really benefited us in terms of when it comes to partnership working with these organizations. It has given us stronger organizational capacity. It has increased our credibility and visibility. It has improved our program qualities, and it has also deepened community trust. And it's very clear that it has, you know, it has really strengthened us, and that improve our programs, and it supported deeper engagement with communities that are often underrepresented in environmental action. Along this, not only providing a youth sessions where young people can come in and do various different things, and community days where we're able to kind of go out there to do litter picking, barbecues with the young people, bringing intergenerational, so bringing the parents, so young people can teach the parents about climate change and sustainability. But we also training 10 young people to become ambassadors, where they're able to go to other communities and other youth centers to kind of train them as well. I don't even know where I'm at, guys.
All right, I can wrap up because I think we're nearly at time, is my guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's just been an incredible amount of benefits for both the university and the organizations like Zamzam. But from an academic perspective, there's just been, we are learning so much from these organizations that it has just been incredibly rewarding to be able to share and accept knowledge from different communities. And actually the partners are really good fun to work and learn with. So it's like not, it's quite a serious subject, but it's actually, we're having a really enjoyable time working together, and we have the project's embedded with opportunities for other community organisations outside of the cluster that are currently in this small group of 5, but also for the city. So thank you for listening. We could obviously talk about it for hours, but we're acutely aware of our time. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Mark and Zamzam. No, it was really interesting, and I apologize that you couldn't see my slides. I think my computer's being a bit slow, but I hope if you agree later that we can share them as well.
Yeah.
And I think it was great to see these both perspectives a bit like side by side, to see very strongly how many actors there are involved outside the university and how you can make this link. And I mean, it's a both-way street, right? It's also the community giving something to the university in terms of learning and in terms of experience.
Yes.
So thanks again for this great example. And maybe we'll have, get back to you at the end of the session, but I think I'll need to move on in terms of time to our next speaker on the list, which is Robert Ditham from the Inland University of Norway. And I'm just gonna double check here. Yes, so Robert is the UNESCO Chair in Education for Sustainable Lifestyles at the University of Inland Norway, and he will also share with us a an insight to case studies. And just double checking, Robert, do you prefer if I share the slides, or can you share them from your end if you want to try?
I can share them. Yeah.
Okay.
Receptacle.
Perfect. Yeah, I see them coming up already. So thank you so much, Robert. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Isabel, and thank you to all the organizers of the session and to all of you joining us today for the session. I am Robert Didham, and I hold the UNESCO Chair on Education for Sustainable Lifestyles based at the University of Inland, Norway. We also work closely with the International Association of Universities Global Cluster on SDG 4 on quality education. In my presentation, I will share a couple examples of learning partnerships for upscaling sustainability practices. In part, I focus on learning partnerships because this is a priority for the work of our UNESCO chair. However, I also do this because I believe firmly in the role of education, and especially education for sustainable development, as a key enabler for the implementation and achievement of all the SDGs. Briefly about our UNESCO chair. We were established in 2015 based on over 15 years of experience leading international partnerships around the topic of education for sustainable lifestyles. We are housed at a small teaching and research center within our university's Faculty of Education, meaning that teacher education and training is a priority focus for us. We also coordinate an international partner network of 42 institutional partners, mostly higher education institutions. Our UNESCO chair works across 6 priority action areas. And today, my 2 examples I will share come from the areas of innovative learning processes and higher education institutional strengthening. However, these examples also exemplify our work around capacity building and partnerships. So jumping in our work with innovative learning processes, we aim to advance active, collaborative, and interdisciplinary learning for achieving pathways to sustainable living. As well as work in teacher training and in collaboration with schools. For nearly 18 years, we have been working with the development of teaching methods and learning materials to promote sustainability learning. The flagship of this work is our Active Methodology Toolkit series and the corresponding teacher capacity development program or project promoting active learning on education for responsible and sustainable lifestyles. While what is highlighted is kind of framed by these toolkit series, there's, the distribution of this and the use of it with teachers and in teacher training and many workshops and training workshops. The true value of this project is only achieved through the significant engagement of our international network of partners, through large collaboration with different partners who have actively and voluntarily participated in the development, promotion, and implementation of this project. We've created quite a large impact, and the network has included the participation of over 150 institutions in more than 50 countries. Since 2008, we have produced up to now 14 different toolkits that provide detailed approaches for student-centered learning activities. Each toolkit provides a holistic learning resource using a different active learning methodology and addressing a specific sustainability theme. These learning activities aim to create personal connections for the learners between the topics of sustainability and their daily lives. Often with sustainability, the teaching focuses much more on the kind of global picture first and somewhat more the abstract picture, and then slowly comes down closer to the individual connection. We try to create learning materials that really start with that personal connection and develop outward from there. And so these learning toolkits promote student-centered active learning methodologies that engage learners specifically in exploring concepts of sustainable development, making personal connections with these themes, collaborating and creating common understanding, identifying interconnections between the dimensions of sustainable development, and taking action for more sustainable lifestyle practices. And this last point is particularly important. Based on using these different learning toolkits and the learning activities, there's many different examples of students and schools taking local action for sustainability and using these through different developing change projects, addressing issues in their local communities, finding innovative solutions that they can put into practice. Internationally, we have distributed 120,000 copies of these toolkits in a dozen different languages. We have run over 300 teacher training workshops in 40 countries, and we've provided direct training to more than 10,000 teachers. When I say those numbers, again, it's not our small center doing that work. It's a large network and partnership that is work from developing and testing out and realizing different practical methods to helping to implement the training workshops and the distribution of those materials. And based on this background, this project was one of the 10 listed finalists for the UNESCO Hamden Prize for Teacher Development in 2024. As a quick bonus, I also introduce another project in innovative learning approaches, the digital ESD project. This is the output of an Erasmus Plus collaboration project, and it provides an interactive learning platform to support teachers to integrate sustainability and the SDGs into primary school classrooms and teaching. The platform provides individual learning worlds for each of the 17 SDGs, and each learning world includes a board story or animated learning video, interactive task, a student workbook, and a teacher guide. Moving on to our priority action area of higher education institutional strengthening, I would like to highlight our collaboration with the Leaders in Higher Education Alliance and Program for Accelerating Sustainability Transformations, or the LEAP-FAST initiative. LEAP-FAST is an initiative developed by UNITAR and UNESCO, and in collaboration with several UNESCO chairs and higher education institutes. LEAP-FAST aims to create a movement of committed sustainability leaders in higher education to advance deep transformations and enable higher education institutes to fulfill their potential with regards to contributing to the SDGs. This initiative was developed with two main elements, a leadership dialogue and a certificate program. The leadership dialogue provides a forum for convening leaders of higher education institutions to collectively reflect on their institutional roles, responsibilities, and commitments towards supporting the achievement of the SDGs, and to strategically define impact pathways in this work. The certificate program offers a 13-week blended training program, as well as a rich international co-learning environment. In the certificate program, we have deans of faculty, we have other study program coordinators, and a variety of teaching staff. In addition to a short introduction and summation modules in the program, the program is divided into three main modules. An institutional module focused on higher education institutions' alignment and impact for sustainable development, a faculty and program module focused on reframing educational programs to empower sustainability actors within their professions, and a course and pedagogical module focused on teaching and learning for sustainability competence development. Much of this learning is guided through UNITAR's online learning platform, but participants also meet locally in teams, digitally for workshops, and also in person for a one-week training and co-creation event. So far, the LEAP-FAST initiative has led to a leadership dialogue and side event held at the High-Level Political Forum in July 2024, a joint statement endorsed by 19 universities, over 40 higher education institutions and 120 participants participating in the first two editions of the certificate program in 2025, hosted by Majma University, and also the participating universities having gone on to establish LEAP-FAST capstone projects at their institutions to carry this learning forward. For example, one university is working to develop a Center for Community Engagement and Research, where they will focus on developing skills around participatory action research, being able to work directly with the communities to identify challenges issues to conduct research on, and also for the community members to be part of that research. And many of the capstone projects that have come out of the LEAP Fast so far have a very direct focus on going beyond the university and finding ways to catalyze the expertise of the university to address local challenges for sustainable development. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Robert. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing these examples, especially I think the idea of having resources available, easily available for educators and for students to use, and then also the note on we need some training there from the structural side with the Leap Fast training. So thanks so much for bringing this up, and yeah, thanks also for the links in the chat. I hope we can get back to that at the end of the session. So I will turn very quickly to the third case study, as we're a little bit, just a tiny bit running behind time here. But we have another great speaker with us from Tanzania, and we have Professor Abel. Sorry, just a second. Professor Abel Kinodo he's an expert for the SDG Academy and an associate professor of geography and economics at the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. And I'm happy that Professor Kinodo has agreed on sharing with us his experience, especially in the development of a new course with the SDG Academy. So I'll give you the floor, Professor Kinodo or Abel, and I will pull up your slides and hope that this time we won't encounter any glitches sharing them. So just bear with me for a little minute, but the floor is yours already. Could you unmute yourself?
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Isabel, for inviting us here to be part of this. And I was wondering whether you could just leave the presentation. I think as we finish this, the presentations can be shared so that we save as much time as possible. Mine is the story of what we are doing at the University of Dar es Salaam, where I work in collaboration with SDG Academy. Basically, the motivation of what we have done, and this is putting together a Master of Art of Sustainable Development, is that we see Africa as a very resource-rich continent. It's very wealthy in terms of that. Right now, people are talking about climate change, and everyone else, particularly in the West, is running towards critical minerals. Africa is actually the capital of critical minerals. But all this resource wealth doesn't seem to translate into economic growth and sustainable development in Africa. Out of frustrations, most of African countries have resorted to resource nationalistic policies where they would sometimes go and grab a mine from a mining company. Sometimes they will just hike taxes and royalties and different fees. But what they have come to learn very quickly is that because of multilateral and bilateral agreement, every time these big companies take them to international courts of arbitration, they almost always lose those cases, and they go back to even worse situation. So what we are looking at from this point of view, we said the issue could be partly because of the capacity amongst African officials. What if we equip these officials so that they may be able to effectively manage these resources, which at the end will be able to benefit African countries and citizens at large? Now, going back to 2015, when the UN adopted the 2030 Agenda, part of that was how we can build a future where we have prosperity, plenary health, and well-being of the people. The UN Sustainable Development Solution Network was immediately established, where academics from all around the world come together and support the SDG drive. From that background, the University of Dar es Salaam work and the SDSN came together to form this master's degree in sustainable development with a little bit more bias towards natural resources management. So what I'll be telling you in the next slide is how does this program look like, and how special it is from that part. Isabel, if we could move to the next slide.
The one of the programs. Sorry, apologies. I have a bit of a slow
Okay, so
computer today.
I'll continue, no problem. So
Thank
as
you.
I've told you, it's the collaboration between the SDG Academy and the University of Dar es Salaam, which has put together this particular program. The program is disciplinary. It's transdisciplinary too in terms of learning. What we have is the possibility that graduates will have excellent placement, in terms of their career in sustainable development upon completing this particular program. Now, the way we'll do it, this will be, as I've told you, very multidisciplinary, but it will touch the causes within this program will touch a lot of SDG agendas like, gender, social justice, climate change, contracts and corporate sustainability, all this within the natural resources arena, issues around illicit financial flows, what have you, so that at the end of the day, natural resources can lead into economic growth and sustainable development. Now, the thing about this program, it has got two main benefits. One is fully online, taking advantage of technology. And secondly, it's affordable. I will talk about the first one a little bit in about a minute. Let's talk about affordability. This is the program that will be of global standard. We are doing it in partnership. I'll tell you in just a second. But the tuition fee is a lot more affordable because it's less than $1,000 a year. This was done deliberately to ensure that those people who can't go to Ivy League, who can't go to Europe, wherever you are, can afford to get into this program and get the same standard of education they would have gotten in Harvard, but getting it while very much affordable. Now, this is how it's going to be done. I told you it's fully online. You can access it from wherever you are in the world, so you can do it at any time. If you're not there for lectures, you can just access recorded lectures. The way we assessment is not your usual assessment where university tests and exams are being administered. What we are going to do is to give students practical tasks to do, how they can change their surroundings wherever they are. Even their dissertation will be reflecting that. We want practical solutions. So they will be given these pieces of assignments from time to time, and that's how they will be assessed. So there will be no exams, no tests, just practical solutions, and that will be assessed that way. Now, I told you about collaborating with SDG Academy. Within the Academy and SDSN, there are about 5 university network. Even when and some of them are University of Dar es Salaam, of course, University College Dublin, Sanwa University in Malaysia, etc. Even when we were putting together this program, we did that in collaboration with these universities. Now, we are saying you will be able to be taught by some of the global leaders in the region, because the way it is, someone from UCD could be giving lecture on a certain module. Someone from somewhere could be given a lecture on another module, and etc., etc. So you don't really need to go to some of these European university, and you can go if you want, but this particular fully online and very much affordable program will give you access to all the materials you want, because we have shared access to materials, even the library. So if you register with us, you will have access to network of the university resources, lectures, etc., etc. And the way we are doing it is through peer learning. So this is not about just people from Tanzania coming to University of Dar es Salaam to learn, but there will be people from all over the world who are registered, and they will be doing a lot of discussions, sharing different experiences from across the globe. We think that's where the future of education should be. So we are sharing global expertise. We are sharing even experiences from students themselves, sharing resources like library publications, etc., etc. And you're doing that at the comfort of your home because it's fully online and it's very affordable, just about $1,000 US. Isabel, thank you.
Thank you so much, Abel. Thank you very much. And yes, I've seen the question come up. We will hopefully share the slides from the speakers if they agree. And also thank you, Abel, for making this point for making programs accessible and inclusive globally, and having these type of really international programs with a very strong sustainability component. So I think that's a very good case study as well in terms of the teaching and learning side, and looking at what type of educational programs we might need for the future. So I think this is this is also a very good connection to the next speaker that we will have. We'll have Jacob Blasius from the Global Student Forum, so also one of the co-organizers of this session, who, now that we heard these 3 case studies from universities, will again, we zoomed a bit out with Nodara in the keynote in the beginning. We zoomed in on these 3 case studies from universities. And now we have Jacob with us, Executive Director of the Global Student Forum, who can speak a bit about also his experience and Global Student Forum's experience of making this case on various levels and in various groups as well. Please, Jacob, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Isabel. I'm very, very impressed by all the great speakers that we have been hearing so far. My name is Jacob Blasius. I'm the Executive Director of the Global Student Forum and also one of the organizing partners of the Education and Academia Stakeholder Group. So in the Global Student Forum, our main goal is, as many of you might know, to bring together student organizations from across the world in different levels of education, capacity build, support each other, coming from many, many different backgrounds, but all finding a shared collaboration in the belief that access to education and the right for students to speak up is fundamental to the success of education. So I think when it comes to the SDGs and higher education, it's a topic that we have been involved in now for like many, many years. It's really one of the core aspects of our engagement. So I'm going to share my screen and share a little bit about what it is we do. And I very much look forward to also engaging in the conversation with everyone. I just need to ask if you can see my screen.
So far, it's still loading, Jacob, but it was the same for me, so maybe it just needs a second.
Give it a moment. Here you go. So here,
yes,
you can see now, this is the global team of the student representatives coming from across the world. So we have both from the Americas and from Africa and from Asia and from Europe. And we are really a community of student organizations who are like coming together and trying to give students a voice at that global level, and trying to make the impossible connection of the global advocacy space with the local realities of students. So I think that one of the things that are key is that there's now a greater realization that young people should have a voice in conversations that affect their life. Just a few years ago, I could still go into spaces and meet people who would say, well, is it that important? Can we not just create some education for the young people and then they will be fine? Like, we are the experts, we know best. But I see a shift, and I see a shift both in many national discourses, but also on the international level. I see a greater realization in the international institutions that you need young people, you need student voices to play a role in the future of those institutions. The membership of the Global Student Forum is very, very broad and big. It is student organizations across the world. And I think a lot of time we need to stress how many young people it is that we can actually bring together in a representative way, that we can actually create systems that ensure that students from that local level to the global level can have a voice that is representative. And I think like that's something that we still need to overcome, because so often you meet or you send a young person to an international space, and then they are met with people saying, well, you're just one young person, but they are in fact representatives. And that's the key. And it's really kind of bridging that local level to the global, like making sure that you have structures in place. And I think this is where a lot of these new mechanisms that we see being developed across the world are failing, because there's a lot of kind of saying, let's involve the young people, let's create a network or an advisory board. And then you make a global call and you invite people from across the world to join. And then you select the people that you like best because they have nice CVs. But are they representative of their peers? Are they representative of the local realities that we would like to bring into these conversations? And I think that's what my work really, really focuses on. And as you know, there are so many student protests across the world. There are so many students speaking up who are not being heard. There are students right now whose stories will never hit the media, who will never be mentioned in global spaces. And this is why we need to kind of like say, hey, don't forget about us, no matter where we are, no matter what kind of reality or community that we come from. Right now, there's actually some good data on it. And I think we should use this, because when it comes to making academia and universities and higher education play a role in the implementation of the SDGs, we should do what works. Just last week, I was in Paris and presented together with a number of other representatives to the presentation of the new GEM youth report. And it's a collaboration with the UNESCO's GEM reporting team and the UN Youth Office. And this report really outlines both best practices of working with students across the world, but also challenges that we need to overcome. And I think there's so much that is kind of like stories and anecdotes in this conversation, but there's actually data on it now. That's really, really good data. And I think we should use that to make this bridge between the global and the local. That is really, really important. One of the initiatives that we are taking in the Global Student Forum is the next level skills for student leaders. This is an EU-funded project that's really about saying, how can students be leaders in forming and shaping their education, in making their education something that matters in their lived reality, making education something that is corresponding with the needs and dreams of young people? And how can we make sure that this act of taking leadership as a student is something we can reward? Far, far too often, it is something that students do extracurricularly. It's something that they do on top of their classic studies. But we can actually reward students credits for being a student leader. And that's what we try to do in this student leader project. We cover many different areas of work. We cover many different disciplines, but we try to say, can we train student leaders to be better, but also recognize them for being better? A number of other initiatives we have taken is that we have tried to collect many of the learning initiatives that we have in our learning platform at the Global Student Forum, both when it comes to understanding international decision-making, when understanding how you make your organization as a student organization work well, because if students don't have organizations that work well, they will never be able to take action to implement on the SDGs. And we have created also our help platform to say, how can students find the resources that they need? This is still a very, very new platform, but it's a way to create a space for information, because so often we hear students reach out and they say, we don't know how to navigate. We don't know where to find the information that enables us to take action. And this was my small presentation.
Thanks so much, Jacob. And it's always really impressive to hear what's all going on at the Global Student Forum with the Education Academia Group and all these great initiatives that you're involved in, really trying to connect the different national and regional student organizations. So also maybe an invitation to participants to have a look at the resources you shared, and also to look at the Education Academia stakeholder group ahead of the HLPF and other key events at the UN this year. So I think, like I said already, and I'm very sorry about that, we're running a little bit behind schedule, but we did want to have the possibility for at least some smaller questions for the audience. And I think we can take 10 minutes for questions. And then we will have some closing words from our colleague Jahashri Wyatt from the UN Academic Impact Office. So I will possibly have a look at the chat and see if there's already some ad hoc questions. Otherwise, the way I would do it is if there's a hand raised, I might just give the floor and really just very briefly say who you are and no more than 1 minute for the question, and also who you would like to pose that question to from the speakers that are still with us. So all of the speakers are still connected apart from our keynote Notara. So I'm just very briefly checking if I see any hands up in the audience. But yeah, we're a very big group today. It's really fantastic to see the chat. And we will check if it's possible to send later some of the links, also share it next to the presentation and to the recording. I did see a question, and that was actually, I think, to Abel from your presentation. For this new course with the SDG Academy, and the question was where people can find more information on that course. So if you do have a link on that you could share, I think that would be very much appreciated. But yeah, it's a new course that is just starting to be kicked off. So let me just very quickly see, and please feel free to jump in, any of the speakers, if you do see a question here. We were planning to be 2 moderators, but the snowstorm in New York, my co-moderator today was unable to come. But also, yeah, that's why I'm like reliant on your hands and on the chat to see who would like to come in. I mean, maybe I can ask just a question back to Jacob, as I've made that link already to the Education Academia stakeholder group. Could you share the link first of all, and can you also, very briefly, you said it in the beginning, but can you say what the Education Academia stakeholder group is for those that are not familiar with the UN stakeholder groups?
Absolutely. So the Education Academia Stakeholder Group is the official stakeholder group for the involvement of education and academia stakeholders in the follow-up to the SDGs. And it's because the UN has an official mechanism to involve education and academia in the implementation and follow-up. So what we do in the Education Academia group is that we follow the development on a country and an international level, and then we coordinate these actors in saying, what are the things that are working, what are the things that need to be improved, and how do we make sure that the stakeholders on the ground keep having a voice in this? As you know, the UN is a space for countries. So it's very, very important that we keep emphasizing that the roles of academia, the roles of students, the roles of civil society who works on education needs to be focused in every kind of conversation that is related to education and academia. So I think one of the really key thing here is that we are just trying to make sure that they don't forget us, because there's so many things going on in the world right now where the countries can kind of get caught up in their own activities. And it's not because they don't want to work with us. Most countries, in my experience, especially in the UN system, want to work with the stakeholders, want to work with academia and education and students. So I think if you are interested in this, I encourage you to look at our website, and we're going to make sure to also send it out afterwards. Join the Education Academia stakeholder group if you want to, but also look at the member organizations. If you are from a university who's not part of the International Association of University, engage with them. If you're from a student organization who's not part of the Global Student Forum, engage with us, because it's also about coming together and making sure that we have a voice together.
Thanks so much, Jacob. Yeah, I think that's important to stress, and thanks so much for bridging this little gap here. And I think one of the questions in the chat was also how to like engage more with the UN and see what these discussions were. And the response from our colleague from Tanzania and the SDG Academy from ABLE is that the course materials will be available starting in June. And then we have a hand up, so I would very much like to give the floor to someone from the audience. It's Samiula Hamdi. You have your hand up, and maybe please also say who you're asking the question to. Thank you.
Thanks, Isabel. My question is to Jacob. Really love the concept of student leaders. That's an amazing innovation on increasing higher education impact. My name is Samiul Hamidi. I represent a group of private universities and think tanks in Afghanistan. We're called the Afghan Hikmah. What we're trying to do is to give education community purpose by collaborating with the NGO sector and also the social business sector. So we've designed an integrative undergraduate that crosses these disciplines and also the sectors. So my question is, when he mentioned the student lead, I think there's a lot of overlap between what we're doing, and I think he might be able to shed some light on how do you credit community service? Because when we have students on board, how do you go about offering credit for their service? Because we're not only education, this new degree seeks to both integrate community service and also offer as a practical experiential learning component of the course. So how do you manage? Is there like an infrastructure for that? Because we don't have this in Afghanistan. There's no policy that we could use as an infrastructure. Do we have to create space for that policy, wait for that, or how do you go about it? And what would your advice be to us? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it sounds like you're doing really a lot of good work, and I'm very, very happy to hear about it. I think when it comes to making sure that you can actually give credits for these kind of things, it's also about figuring out how do we kind of not burden the students in kind of writing reports or filling out kind of different forms or that kind of thing, but we still need to have some information on it. So what we do is that when we have run the courses, we have also invited the students who are engaging to present their initiatives, and in these groups that we make, present them to their peers. and give each other feedback to develop them together. And then we also ask them to write a small report on it and say, okay, what are the actions that you're taking? And we are doing this project in collaboration, so the Global Student Forum, but also universities in Europe and in Sub-Saharan Africa. And we're doing it in a way where we are also using the quality assurance mechanisms of the universities in the partnership to make sure that we can actually do what we claim to do, because otherwise it would be less impactful. And I think we are also learning to take advantage of the new, more flexible ways of doing courses, or micro modules and smaller kind of learning experiences. I think like that kind of flexibility also allows us to do it a little more kind of like step by step, and not say, okay, we need a full course that is this kind of engagement, but a small component of your learning experience can be that course. I think that is also making it much more possible for people within different disciplines to engage with it, because many different disciplines also have it very set what they need to do and need to learn within their time. So the more flexible we can make it, the more adaptable to different kind of circumstances we can make it, the easier it has become.
Well, thanks so much, Jacob, and also thanks so much for asking the question earlier to Samiola. I'm going to move to another question, just in terms of time. So I see Polina Priyankova has her hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I would like, first of all, to extend sincere thanks from the Global AI Center for this wonderful discussion. And thank you, Isabel, for your beautiful moderation. I suppose that all the panelists gave really insightful discussions, and I'm the president of the Global AI Center. Global AI Center has been known for giving our policy recommendations. For example, last year we have given policy recommendations about the artificial intelligence regulation to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. We have also contributed to Global Digital Compact, multi-stakeholder meetings. We have also last year contributed to the UN 80 initiative led under UN Secretary General Guy Ryder. So we see that the world is changing. Innovation is driving lots of changes. And one of the points that I would like to reflect on today is that it seems that many questions and many problems when it comes to the speakers and the panelists' discussions today, from change makers to academia and youth leadership, is that we're grappling with polycrisis from different angles and confronting remarkably similar challenges. And lots of them are connected with making different institutions future-proof, and the proper AI regulation is one of the keys that unlocks many of the questions raised today. So for our today's discussion, I would like to leave one reflection from the Global AI Centers, that if we want universities to function as societal actors, if we want smart cities to be genuinely sustainable, as Mark has been highlighting today, and if we want partnerships to accelerate rather than destabilize innovation, then closing this legal gap must become a shared priority, because it is the matter that had to be addressed in 2025 already, and we have been reiterating it many times. So I will leave the contacts of the Global AI Center in the chat, and I would like to emphasize that we're ready to contribute and to give our legal acumen to many projects shared today. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity to speak up, and that you are amplifying many voices of the youth and academia these days. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Paulina, for your comment. And someone said that last week in a meeting, that once you drop this AI topic, it's a completely new discussion. And I think that's good that we now, put that sort of out there, to know that all of the projects that we're doing and all of the teaching and the learning with students, all of the research that we do is very much changing at a very quick pace. And maybe I can also mention at this point that IAU has a webinar series together with UNESCO on the impact of AI and higher education. So for those that are more interested in that deep dive, I highly recommend the discussions there. The next session will be in February, I think. But as I didn't really see any more questions, I mean, I think there's one more hand up, and I think we could take that one more hand if that's okay. I'm just looking at Jahashri, if you have 2 or 3 more minutes after this. Otherwise, I think we might move to the closing words. No, I don't see it anymore. Okay, I think the most easy decision now is that we'll move to some of the closing words, and to very much welcome again Jahashri Wyatt from the United Nations Academic Impact at the UN Division for Communications based in New York, to conclude a little bit the discussion and these many great projects and ideas that the speakers have shared with us today, and also the audience. So thank you so much, and Jahashri, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Isabel. And I really thank all of the speakers. What an incredible discussion today. So intergenerational and so representative. My name is Jayashri Wyatt. I'm the Chief of Education Outreach in the Department of Global Communications in the United Nations. I join you this morning from New York, where indeed it is very, very snowy, and we're all just trying to make it to our offices and places of work. Lots of people staying home and teleworking today as well. So I know Katrin really wanted to be here, but her flight was swapped out, as Isabel mentioned. I just take a moment also to thank all of our partners, the International Association of Universities, Isabel, the Education and Academia Stakeholder Group, the Global Student Forum, York University as well, De Montfort University, who's our UNAI SDG 11 Global Hub. Just so fantastic to see everybody on the line. I think, New Dara really started us out on such an amazing point, thinking about what's possible despite the fact that young people, as she said, have kind of been born into a really serious set of crises, including the COVID pandemic, where she talked about how the old international social contract is no longer there. And I think she really helped us to understand, I think, what young people are experiencing. And her emphasis on, the hopeful signs that universities are addressing this poly crisis through their research and through their pedagogy and through their partnerships, working really across generations and across communities for the common good. And that, there is this great move in higher education. So I thank her very much. I know she's not here, but she really started us off, I think, in an important framing. We in the UN, of course, see that the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030 are existentially important. And I think Mark Charlton from De Montfort University and Zamzam, what a powerful intervention. We really see this extraordinary partnership in Leicester, UK, with young people, underrepresented groups and communities. How important the work that you're doing. And to Zamzam's point, that so often it's the young people who have the solutions. They have the knowledge. They are there. They're ready to co-create knowledge production and solutions. But so often they're the ones who are most affected, and they are the least heard. So I thank you for that point, Zamzam. And I think this partnership shows us that when trust, investments, and opportunities are made through these extraordinary partnerships with government funding, the university, and also NGOs like Zamzam's, what an important local work can come forward with the communities who are most affected. So I thank you for this very powerful example. I thank also Dr. Robert Didham. What an amazing work that you are also doing as well, especially in education for sustainable development. The examples that you shared, those numbers, how impressive. 120,000 copies of the work to help to support others in the field, 300 teacher trainings in over 40 countries. You're taking action toolkits. This is exactly the kind of work that universities need to be doing to make the kinds of shifts that New Dara was telling us about and talking to us about. I also thank Professor Abel Kinyondo. Wow, what an important point that you also make, shifting us away and rejecting that deficit narrative, and that Africa is actually a resource-rich country, and the solutions that you are coming up with to address these problems that are really pernicious, that, you know, these resources, that richness is not translating into economic growth. And so the work through the UN Solutions Networks and the SDSN and the SDG Academy, creating a master's degree that really focuses on resources, how powerful that is as well. I also thank you, Jacob. What an elucidating set of work that you do, that you shared with us and explained, and your principled and engagement and your proposition that access to education and the right of students to speak up is a fundamental right, and that it is so important that they are at the table, supporting many of the other points that were made in the questions today. And so what I can also just say, if I may, is that the UN takes the voices of young people and also the role that higher education can play in fast tracking and accelerating progress for the SDGs very, very seriously through our United Nations academic impact, of course, with 1,800 universities engaged in over 160 countries. This has been incredible, incredibly important. And what we've heard today just confirms the value proposition of higher educations, that universities that are locally rooted yet globally connected can really make a difference. They work inside communities, translating these global goals into local action and local realities into knowledge that can scale. And they also provide credibility and continuity and capacity through its public mission, its expertise, and long-term presence. So while these political priorities are shifting, that new Dara sketched out for us, the universities remain, and they are shifting into other gears now. And these are the SDGs in action. And this matters for the ECOSOC partnerships and the 2030 agenda. These remain our roadmap to equity, to peace, and sustainable prosperity. And we are in decisive years when implementation and accountability just must accelerate. Our consensus statement from the Global Higher Education Symposium last year that Isabel touched on affirms a clear point that SDG progress will not come from just resources alone. It depends on partnerships. And it depends on us working together through trusted and inclusive delivery modalities. So 3 calls to action to finish on, if I may. To the member states, we in the UN system continue integrating higher education and especially young people and student networks into the SDG implementation and review as full partners. To the universities, continue prioritizing interdisciplinary, community-anchored engagement, continue investing in youth leadership, and connect research to action. And finally, to the young people and civil society, stay at the forefront, keep insisting on inclusion, demand accountability, and turn agency into outcomes. The 2030 agenda will be measured not by declarations, but by partnerships that deliver. And higher education must be at the table because sustainable development cannot succeed without it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. I could not have said it better. And thank you so much for all your patience staying on, to the speakers, to the participants, and to everyone, really. We very much hope that you will keep this discussion with you. And yes, take care and goodbye.